Hello, welcome to No Man Running. I'm talking today about my experience both training and racing with carbon plated shoes. I've run in three different types of carbon plated shoes: the Saucony Endorphin Pro 1s, the Adidas Adios Pro 2s, and not quite as often but a few runs in the Nike Vaporfly Next 2s. And this is a good time to consider buying any of these shoes because the newer versions of these are either out or coming out right now, and so all of these three shoes can be got at a great bargain compared to the retail price on them. So talk first about the similarities between the shoes. They all have a similar drop. These are 8mm drop on the Sauconys and the same with the Nikes. These are about an 8.5, 9mm drop depending on where you read about them, so very similar there. Another similarity between these shoes is in the upper. They all have a really nice, well aerated upper here, so that when you're running, and I run in some pretty hot Florida weather, your top of your feet always feel well aerated, and they're all very light and comfortable on the top. In terms of getting in the shoes, the Endorphin Pros are the easiest to get in and out of. They're probably the most traditional looking shoes. I find I have to work a little bit to get these shoes on and to get the kind of lacing and comfort that I'm looking for with them. But once you go through that effort, they're an extremely comfortable shoe. The Nikes, just the way the laces are designed and laid out here, takes a little bit of getting used to, but again, an extremely comfortable shoe. The stack height on these is a 33mm stack height, whereas on the Nikes you can see considerably thicker here. That's a 40mm one, and it's 39 on the Adidas. So the effect of that is that you're definitely getting much less of a cushioned ride with the Endorphin Pros than you are with the other two, and I think that influences the way I use these shoes compared to the other ones. And so let me talk about the Pros first. I got these first, and I immediately noticed a massive difference between my running, or my racing in particular, between these shoes and any of the others that I'd had. The closest I'd had before was the Saucony Endorphin Speeds, which are the same kind of speed roll design, but this was a fundamental difference when I started racing 5Ks in these. I immediately was slicing 15-20 seconds off the times I was doing in the Speeds. And just for reference, I run a 5K race somewhere between 4:30 and 4:40 per kilometre. I've also raced these shoes at the 10k pace, and I've run one half marathon race in them. And I ran that half marathon back in January of this year, and what was a very fast time for me at the time of 1:47:33, which is a 5-minute 4-second kilometre. I subsequently ran in these shoes in a 15km race and was sub 5-minute kilometres for those. And so at those slightly longer distances, 15km and 21, fantastic shoe. But after the half marathon race, my legs were killing me with these shoes. My ankles were really sore. It took a bit of recovery after that half marathon distance, and especially compared to a half marathon I'd run about a month earlier in the Endorphin Speeds, which just disappeared in my foot in the run, and I felt fine after it. So I feel that for me, as an older runner, just with the lower cushion on these, the lower stack height, the lower cushion, half marathon's kind of the limit for me. The Adios Pro 2s I bought with the intention of running my first marathon in these shoes, or at least training the longer distances for that first marathon in them. Pace wise, running those distances at paces between 5:27 and maybe 5:45 per kilometre, so that's the kind of pace that I've been testing these at. And this is an extremely comfortable shoe. It was perfect for me for the marathon. There was a couple of times in my training when I started to feel the plate a little bit sore on the base of my foot when I was getting to the 20-22 mile range, but I feel you would find that with any plated shoe. But you definitely get a bit of pop off them. I certainly don't feel the same spring off as I do with these Endorphin Pros, but I love this shoe for the marathon and for my long distance training. The one criticism I have of these shoes is the wear. I only have 156 miles in these shoes, and look at the mess here on the heel at the top there. A ton of wear there on the heel. Now, I think I'm a pretty heavy heel striker, particularly as I get tired at longer distances, and so I'm putting a lot of wear on shoes towards the end of a long distance run, but that's pretty substantial wear for these, and I don't think I can get more than maybe another 50-60 miles out of them. So that's the downside, but you can get these shoes right now if you're the right size feet for $120, $125, which is fantastic for a super shoe. The last shoe that I kind of bought on a whim because they were on sale. I'd always wanted to try them, even though I've never been someone that has run in Nikes, is the Nike Vaporflies. And this is a really interesting shoe. It's 1 ounce lighter. It's 6.6 ounces for a US size 9. It's 1 ounce lighter than these other two, and you can feel that lightness in them. But it's a very different striking motion, and I think with me, as someone who's prone to heel striking, these are not the best shoes. They're always forcing you forward, so it was an unnatural run for me and took me a lot getting used to. Certainly in the shorter distances, when I'm able to maintain more of a toe first or front foot first action, 5Ks to 8Ks that I run in these shoes, I certainly feel the benefit of them. There's an amazing pop to them, a really fun shoe to run in. But the one time I tried a longer run in these shoes, 17, 18 miles, I just couldn't get comfortable running in them. And I think that's more that I'm more of a Saucony Adidas, used to running in Saucony and Adidas. I've got a good friend who got a pair of these recently, and he is running Nike Pegasus all his life. And this was a simple transition for him. He wore them in a recent marathon run, having transitioned from the Pegasus only a couple of weeks later, and he had no issues about the type of ride he was getting from it, and it feeling strange compared to the Pegasus. So it was a very natural transition. So if you're a Nike fan and you're looking for a super shoe and you can pick these up on sale, then you're probably best sticking with these. I wanted to conclude with a summary of the running experience in these three shoes, the way that they feel on the road while you're running, because it is such a fundamental difference between the three of them that it might be an influencer on which shoe you finally decide to pick. When I run in the Endorphin Pros, it's a very visceral experience. I feel very connected to the ground when I'm running. It's my feet and the ground, and I feel what these do is make me feel like my feet themselves have got a bit of extra energy. So I'm very aware of the road, I'm very aware of my body in relation to the road. I just feel a bit more springy. When I'm running in these, it's like I'm wearing a fitted pillow round my foot. I'm detached from the ground, I'm very comfortable, but it's clearly obvious to me that there's a mechanism between me and the ground. When I run in the Nikes, it's like someone has fitted me with a pair of robotic feet. Like my feet have been totally replaced by some kind of new way of moving. And that takes such a getting used to that it can really throw you for a loop the first 2 or 3 times that you run in these shoes. It can be such a great and joyful experience running in these when you get used to that, but I feel like you really need to have good form as the distances get longer in this, and be able to maintain that good form to get the maximum benefit and feel out of the unique experience of these shoes. So overall, what would I recommend? I think if you're training for a long distance race, beyond a half marathon, say a marathon, or maybe even you're training for your first ultra, then I think these shoes are fantastic, either for training or for the race itself. If you're like me, your legs aren't the strongest, then I would caution against taking these beyond anything more than a half marathon. If you're a Nike person, you've maybe only run in Pegasus or some of the other Nike range before, don't hesitate to switch to these, because the experience from my friend is certainly a very positive one.